Hello and welcome to the panel, your official SuperCoach NBL show. The rounds are coming thick and fast, and we're here today to talk about the injuries wreaking havoc on the competition. Your most traded in and out for round 17, and the experts are going to talk about where maybe you can capitalise in this round. A reminder, we're recording this on Wednesday. There is still one game left to go of round 16. Brisbane Bullets up against the Perth Wildcats tonight. But before we get into it, I just want to say we have loved having you with us, and we love joining you every single week, so make sure you keep listening. I'm Kelsey Brown and I am a SuperCoach rookie, so I need to get our experts in. JC, James Clement, SuperCoach Wizard. It's maybe the first week you can talk yourself up, is that right?
I mean, only half. Look, I'm going to go 1 or 2 on my moves this week, Kel, so I feel okay with that. Look, I have had a roller coaster, shall we say, of a SuperCoach season. But the cool thing is we've got one more golden week left, right? Where we've got every team on a double. So look, this is one more free hit where you can just sort of look at the schedule, go at the folks that you like, and this is kind of the best time of the SuperCoach season right now because it's for all the cookies. Let's go. And I mean, the bloke who's maybe just about to get all the cookies.
Yes, well, yes, if we were doing a shout out to this week, I think Mick Randall would be in there. I want to welcome him in, News Corp Hoops writer Mick Randall. Welcome back. We love when you're in here. I want to ask you about Derek Walton Jr. You had him. He's had an injury this week, but you found a loophole.
Well, I don't know if it's a loophole, but if you had D. Walt on your bench, he scored -1 for the game because obviously he's done the hamstring, he's done for at least the regular season, but he's a 0 if he's on your bench because you get 50% of the score. So, hey, you know, like at least he didn't hurt your score, right? You get that point back. If you started him, you lose it. And I've heard some people captained him as well. So.
Oh, rough. But meanwhile, I mean, Mick might just top the 1,000 point mark in this single week as well. He's absolutely smashing us this week.
Yeah, well, let's get to those injuries. We spoke about it at the top. Derek Walton Jr., Tyrell Harrison out with that concussion. Josh Bannon is a game time decision this week. And we've also got Sean McDonald. Huge injuries out this week. JC, what does that mean for super coaches?
I think it means... Talk about a free hit. You've got everyone on a double this week. DeWalt is priced at $325K. The break even is almost irrelevant now. It was like 40 odd. And so you have this point where, because he's got the 0, he's going to come down pretty dramatically in price. But because he's gotten you back up to 325, Mick, you can get to most other sort of like half decent primo guards like without too much sort of finagling.
There's going to be a way, right?
If you've got one other cash cow that you can sort of downgrade maybe to one of those like the 58K, with all due respect, 58K spuds.
The stud. It's the stud.
You're going to the stud. I like this. I like you just jumping on the stud. But it means with DeWalt, like it means a lot of things for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix guards, like Sobey. You think about Foxwell. Even the likes of Wieskamp probably gets like a little bit more run, and he's actually been, again, a massive cash cow down the stretch of the season. But even Malik Lewis.
What about the Big Red? What about Big Red, mate? Gus.
G-Love, he actually, so his SuperCoach points goes from 16.3 to 20.5 without DeWalt. So
hello,
it's not bad. Cousin Angus, as we call him. Malik Lewis even jumps up 5 SuperCoach points basically without DeWalt there. So it's a bit of a boon if you've got some of the other Phoenix players, but his price point means you can jump maybe to Sobey, which we've sort of seen him do pretty well without DeWalt. His average, I think, goes from 28.7 to 32.2. So it's a bit of a nice jump. It goes over 30, happy days. But it also raises his ceiling. So like his ceiling could, suddenly he's had a massive week this week. It's top, 90, I think, already. So you sort of look at that. If you can get from DeWalt to Sobey, maybe that's an easy straight swap for you. But I think the rest of the sort of domino effect on that Phoenix team makes it pretty easy. If you've got some of those guys, you're like sort of, okay, you don't want DeWalt hurt, but thumbs up because it might make me an extra little bit of cash over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's those. And then obviously, Mick, you spoke about PJC. He comes back in from that suspension. He's been out for 5 games. He comes back in and you think he might be a little bit of a point of difference.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's interesting, right? There's a lot of good guards. You've got, obviously... You want Kendrick Davis and Bryce as your 2 starting guards if you can have that. But they might not be affordable, right? They're both in the 500K. I mean, I think Kendrick's going to be pushing up to 600 at some point, potentially. So if you and the guys right at the top, or the people that are playing SuperCoach that are right at the top, they're not going to have PJC. So If you're going, oh, you know, like I need to make a change, I don't have enough money to get a Kendrick Davis, a punt on PJC might be something that you do.
But what about if he's punted on the season, Mick?
Well, I mean, that's a risk that you run with any guy, right?
This is a Breakers team that has looked rudderless, bereft, and PJC has obviously sort of taken to the internet to explain his displeasure with it all. But I think the big question there is, like, PJC comes back, so his scores this year against Tassie already 40, 25 and 36. And then against South East Melbourne, he had 51 and 33, he averages 40. So, look, the scoring is there if you want to roll the dice and go, he'll come back guns a-blazing. I'm just not as convinced that he's going to be as switched on and like really just going hammer and tongs for a team that's already out of the sort of race.
Now, I'll get in trouble with all the Tassie fans. I love Tassie, but no McDonald, no Will Magnay.
No Deng.
And now no Deng, right? They're, like, if, again, it'd be a Roth miracle if they go over there and win. But if say you've got Mooney, right, and PJC obviously heavily affects Mooney's production.
100%.
You could find a way to go from Mooney to PJC and go, am I going to get... He's going to get 50. He's going to come out, he'll get your 50 Supercoach.
Yeah, plenty of moves to make for New Zealand. You could do anything which way. As I said at the top, we're filming this with one game left to go of round 16, but I do just want to remind you of the start and finish dates for round 17. So round 17, Thursday, Jan 16th, Wednesday, Jan 22nd. Round 18, you can see it all there on your screen. 19 and 20, we've got 4 rounds left to go. Very exciting for Supercoaches and for the rest of the league. It has been chaos. We've had some really close finishes, that amazing one from Chris Golding recently. Let's get to the hot and not. So no surprises on the hot list. Kendrick Davis heads it up, 105 for him. Matt Hurt, 97. Montrezl Harrell on 90. Xavier Cooks, 87. And Matt Mooney, who you just spoke about, on 87. Xavier Cooks is about the only one who I have been able to stick with there. JC, any of those that you think have been absolutely unbelievable and you just cannot go past?
They're all raw gold, aren't they? This is amazing. Like, the amazing thing is Kendrick Davis is on pace to basically blow out the entire Supercoach scoring record in his first season, which is amazing. 105 on a break even this week of, I think it was 85. So he's already priced at 530, Mick. He's going to go up.
Yep.
So if he didn't have KD, it gets even harder from here on out. Matt Hurt becomes a really, really interesting sort of candidate as well, as Sam having a few extra doubles here down the stretch. Trez, I loved this because that was one of my moves this week. I moved, annoyingly enough, from Sam Froling, who turned around and went, hey, you know who I dominate? These guys. And was awesome. Ripped off 82, but Trez ripped off 90. So Trez had the break even of like 53. He rips off a 90. So it would have been really hard for me to get to him this week anyway. So 380 he was. He's going to go up. I feel really good about keeping Trez at least for the next little bit. Matt Mooney, obviously, the big problem for him was PJC. And we've seen him, you know, launch 1 million shots, I think. All numbers approximate with Matt Mooney, but I mean, there's not a ball that he's touched, I think,
Just
in the last
lots of
couple
usage, right?
Exactly.
Like, he's just got the ball in his hands the whole time. He's
He
on
and
the
Chris
court.
Goulding just going, hey, they're just doing the Spider-Man meme to each other. It was amazing the other night. So, but all 5 of those have been fantastic. Mooney's probably the one that I'm just a little bit leery of going in the next week.
Mick, you don't have Montrez at the moment. How are you going to get him in? Well,
he's the only one that I don't have. I've got the other 4, so
Humble
that's
brag.
not too
Humble
bad.
brag.
Humble
How's
brag.
this?
Well, like, I've got to get off Walton, right? So I need to find a way to trade Walton out and turn him into Trez. And I've got to decide, look, I've got Max Darling still sitting there as my outlier that, you know, can't get me 50 on any given night, right? So do I just ride with him and I go, okay, I trade D-Walt and maybe D-Walt and Mooney, turn them into Trez and, you know, find someone around, I think it's about, you know, the 200K mark. Or do I do something crazy?
Oof. And
so I love the stud, right? Nick Stoddart, right? They just absolutely love him down there. Roth loves him. We like what he did. I know you were impressed with what he did. I heard you on the call. First game.
Second game.
I think you hit 3 3-pointers, right?
It was unreal.
It's like, you know, there's just not much cheap about. And if you really need to make some cash, he might be the guy that you go to. I think he's, like, with all their injuries, he's going to have a role in there. And if he can get you if he can get you a 10-point per game, it's like you might live with that if you can get these primos that can give you 50. Now the other guy, and call me crazy, and I probably should have looked into his minutes and stuff more before I started talking about this guy, but Bull Qual is such a better player than what he's showing up in Sydney. Like, I mean, he gets 15 across 2 games this week. His break even was 30. He's going to dip again. He'll be under 100k. Like, a guy with that much quality and whatever's going on up there, like, hopefully it can be figured out. But if you can get him for 100k, I mean, far out. Like, and he can turn it around somehow. Come on, bring us home, Bull.
That's a couple of big shouts from you. I am big on Nick Stoddart, and it looks like he probably will start for the rest of the season with Sean McDonald being out. I think they like the look of Jordan Crawford coming off the bench, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Let's punch through our knots because I don't like to talk about the negatives. Flynn Cameron 2, Deng Adel 5. He did come off with that injury in Gippsland. Isaac White 8, Keandre Cook 11, and Keanu Pinder 13. Keandre Cook is an interesting one. We have spoken about him endlessly on this podcast. What do you think about that Keandre Cook thing? Is it just a matter of Brisbane sort of not pulling it together this weekend?
He's actually been battling a bit of a groin. So I think that's impacted him. He missed a game, and then I think the last 2 he's just still kind of worked his way back from it. Like I was told yesterday that he's pretty close to 100%. So there's a chance if you've got him, you might contemplate holding on. If you don't, if you've got other needs in other areas, because he is capable of big scores. So, and they're going to have a short rotation, so he's probably going to play 35 minutes.
Yeah.
So he should have opportunity.
Yeah, it's a weird one because you sort of see his price point. He's also going to drop pretty big with that 11 in his price cycle. And he's like that ideal, if you've already got him, I think you're sort of sticking with him, right? Because he's probably your third guard.
Your bench
he's
guy,
probably not one of your top 2.
Yep.
Like you might have Cal, you might have KD, you might have Bryce, sort of one of those combos as your starters, and you might have Cook on the bench. So that's probably fine there. Outside of that, I think I'm probably just sticking fat with him, and I feel okay about it. The other name that we threw in there, Keanu Pinder, I still want absolutely no bar, like the Perth front court. Like we're sort of looking down the barrel of like a couple of doubles coming up for them, and if you've suddenly found yourself in a position like me, where you're like, oh God, I've got Taco 4, what am I doing? And you're like, ooh, Perth, and you're like, no, I don't want to go to Pinder. I can't do this to myself again. Like, meanwhile, Space Cam, if you want to like randomly hot player, comes out absolutely nowhere, crushes it again. We're on the Space Cam roller coaster.
Yeah, I got off the Space Cam roller coaster. But if you're looking at Perth players, there's only 2 guys you want for SuperCoach purposes. It's Bryce, which I think you have to have, and then I think Windler, who I reckon I've had him in and out a couple of times this year. He's been massive over the last, I reckon, 3 or 4 weeks, and it looks like he's just going to keep going, even with Doolittle back in the lineup.
Yep.
Well, Mick, you've mentioned someone who is on our most traded in list this week, Bryce Cotton. No surprises, but also probably a little bit surprising that people don't have him already. 5.6% of coaches have gone with him this week. Taron Armstrong's on there, 4.2% of coaches. Joe Wieskamp, Montrez Harrell, and Matt Hurt. No surprises for probably those 3. Taron Armstrong is an interesting one. Cairns have a great run of games.
They do, and they've also got the double at the end of the season, Kels. They've got the round 20 double along with Illawarra. So that sort of brings up this big question down the stretch here, Mick, of like, can you trust any of the type ends? Any of them? Tanner Groves, Taron, I don't know. But also, Wardenberger, the big Wardenberger. Fraudenberger, some might call him. I wouldn't do that. That's not to his face.
Oof.
But he's had a great week this week, which is also sort of sets off alarm bells in my brain because it's like, hey, he was good this week. We'll see what happens next week. But the type ends are pretty interesting, I think, down the stretch. But really, you mentioned Bryce. So this week, he's at 485. He's got the break even of 72. The big question for me is, how do you want to finish your SuperCoach season? Who do you want as your starting 2 guards? Do you want KD and Bryce? Do you want KD and PJC? Do you want KD and Cal? Considering that Cal, you'll have to carry maybe Cal for a couple of weeks with the Hawks on singles before that round 20 double. I am trying to get back to Bryce, I think, this week.
The one thing to think about with Bryce is I think they have 1 less game than most of the other teams.
Yep.
So they've got a couple of singles where these other guards have got doubles. Yep. So I think you need to factor that in.
Well, this week, he's got Adelaide and he's got Melbourne. And so that's a weird sort of mix of like laughing. Oof.
No, he goes well against Melbourne.
That's it. He had 20 against Melbourne in round 3, but he had 73 against them last year in a single game.
Yeah.
So he's also ripped off 51, 56 and 37 against Adelaide this year alone. So I feel like Bryce might be the one move I might want to make this week. And we'll sort of go from there. But at 485 and that break even of 72 feels
going to
pretty
be
good.
500.
Yeah, you got to get on Bryce. I just think this week he's just unbelievable. I watched him live, and that man, wow. On the out list, big Illawarra heavy on here. Sam Froling, Trey Kell, Hyung Jung Lee, all on the out list. Keandre Cook and Tyrell Harrison. Tyrell makes sense because of that injury cloud that he's under with the concussion protocols. Keandre Cook, 14.4% of coaches. Are you moving from any of these people to others? JC, you moved off Sam Froling this week, so you're one of those. Mick, what do you think?
Was Froling the number one out?
He was the third.
The third out. So I must admit, I was going to trade him out until the Tyrell Harrison injury. So I'm kind of, I guess, thankful. Not that Tyrell got hurt, but the fact that it kind of forced my hand to keep him because, you know, Sam was not great in that first game, but then he goes and absolutely just smashes Adelaide. So, you know, I think his break even was 77. So everyone's gone, oh, well, he's probably not going to get that after a poor week. So we'll jump off him, but he's made it. So let's ride.
And I think I moved off both actually, Tyrell Harrison and Froling. So Harrison, obviously with the news break, met his concussion.
Who'd you move to?
Yeah, so I did maybe say this last week. We'll roll the dice. We'll go big or go home. I went big. I went as big as you could go in the NBL. To Taco Fall. And it turns out when you go big, the fall can also be precipitous.
Yeah, it's a long, long way down.
Brilliant.
When you're falling from 7'6", it hurts a lot when you hit 23 SuperCoach points across 2 games. Breaking my heart. But at the same time, I did go from Froling to Trez. So it all sort of worked out a little bit. But the Tyrell Harrison injury meant that Josh Bannon went absolutely ham, Mick, before he hurt his knee the other day. So he had, 40, I think, in that game.
Well, I reckon it was all in the first half, just
exactly.
about as well.
And so now he's still questionable for tonight's game. Like, do you think you can trust Bannon down the stretch?
Look, I think if you've got him, like, take a punt and keep him. Like, everything I've heard is that he's going to play tonight. There was a real fear that he'd torn an ACL. They'd had scans late yesterday and it came back really good news that, look, you know, it's not structural damage. You know, we'll strap you up, deal with the bone bruising and you can go. So I reckon he starts at the 5 and the way he played against Phoenix in that first half was unbelievable. So
not bad.
As always, guys, I absolutely love your insight. So many names thrown up. Taco Fall even got a mention there, which is a big one. As I said, love having you guys with us, as do we love having you with us as well. Make sure you go to supercoach.com.au for all your Supercoach needs. You're going to need the undo changes, the reverse trades, everything like that for the coming weeks. There is some names being tossed up here today. We love to have your company and we can't wait to have you next week.